PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome. You're watching ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles and we're coming to you live from Manila and Thailand. Hello, Faye.
Hello, Alma. This is Faye Barta from your EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines, President Duterte warned that the arrest of protocol violators is now mandatory as they continue to defy the strict quarantine and health rules amid the prevailing pandemic.
Lankan authorities battled to put out a fire raging for a week on a striking container ship loaded with chemicals to avoid a potential marine environmental disaster.
The National Bureau of Investigation turned over 2 Japanese nationals, one of them listed by Interpol as transnational fugitive, to the Bureau of Immigration after their arrest in Parañaque City last month.
And far from home, Weightlifter's quest for her first Philippine Olympic gold.
First in our program, President Duterte warned that the arrest of protocol violators is now mandatory as people continue to defy strict quarantine protocols and rules. Let's listen in.
I think there's a law in the... Huwag ninyo akong pilitin na talagang pahirapan ko kayo. We will review the national laws regarding the matter. But I think there's something in the revised penal code. Pero alam mo kasi, hindi naman talaga yung krimen na may ginawa kayo. Except that most of you are committing a crime. Kasi alam ninyo na after swimming together, a lot of you get positive na for COVID-19. Parang wala kayong binabaliwala ninyo ang pakiusap ng gobyerno. And it's criminal for you to get the COVID and pass it on to another innocent person. I will look for a suitable law because you are now forcing my hand to get into this thing and control it. Ayaw ninyo magpasaway and I make it mandatory, and this will be the job of the municipal mayor, city mayor, and the barangay captains. Kayong mga barangay captain, do you know that you have committed a crime of dereliction of duty? Tignan ninyo sa revised penal code, magkonsulta kayo ng abogado. Talagang ang unang ipakulong ko, yung barangay captain. Having committed the crime of dereliction of duty under the revised penal code. Kung ayaw ninyo, umalis kayo. Kasi pag ulit ito, pag may isa pa, beginning tonight, pag may isa pa, ang unang hulihin ang barangay captain. I'm ordering the police to arrest the barangay captain and bring him to the station, investigate him for being a derelict of dereliction of duty.
The president made the pronouncement in his state public address after LG or Local Government Secretary Eduardo Año's report about 3 super spreader events that contributed to the spike in COVID cases in the country. Duterte also reminded the local officials to ensure the strict implementation of quarantine and health protocols amid the pandemic.
Now in other news, faced with the dilemma of who to recognize as Myanmar's legitimate representative following February's coup, World Health Organization members opted on Wednesday to exclude the country from their annual assembly. The 74th World Health Assembly had received requests from both Myanmar's ousted civilian authorities and the military junta that seized power nearly 4 months ago to represent the country. This year's gathering of the WHO's main decision-making body, which began Monday and lasts through June 1, is considered one of the most important ever as the COVID-19 pandemic rages on. A WHO committee tasked with verifying country delegation credentials had proposed deferring a decision on who should represent Myanmar at the key meeting, and pending guidance from the United Nations General Assembly on how the UN system as a whole should view the matter. For now, that would mean no one would represent Myanmar at the 74th World Health Assembly according to the proposal, and which was approved by 2 member states without a vote Wednesday morning. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the February 1 putsch, which has sparked near daily protests and a nationwide civil disobedience movement. The military has killed more than 800 civilians in a crackdown on dissent, and this is according to a local monitoring group.
In a related news, Myanmar's army has lost a source of revenue as French energy giant Total said Wednesday that cash payments to a joint venture with the army have been suspended due to the unrest in the country. Total has come under pressure from pro-democracy activists to stop financing the junta since a military coup in February, which has been followed by a brutal crackdown on dissent. More than 800 people have been killed by the military, that according to a local monitoring group. Total said in a statement that the decision to suspend payments was made at a May 12 meeting of shareholders of Moatama Gas Transportation Company Limited, the joint venture which owns a pipeline linking Nayadana gas field and Thailand. The suspension was proposed by Total, which holds a 31% stake in MGTC, and U.S. partner Chevron, which is 28%. Thai firm PTTEP holds a quarter of the company, while 15% is held by military-controlled Myanmar Oil and Gas Enterprise, or MOGE. MOGE generates annual revenues of around $1 billion from the sale of natural gas. Total said in a statement, and I quote, "In light of the unstable context in Myanmar, cash distributions to the shareholders of the company have been suspended effective from April 1. It added that it condemns the violence and human rights abuses occurring in Myanmar and would comply with any potential sanctions against the junta from the EU or US. The MGTC pipeline brings gas from the offshore Yadana field operated by Total to Myanmar's border with Thailand. Total said it would continue to produce gas so as not to disrupt electricity supply in either country. Total paid around $230 million to the Myanmar authorities in 2019 and another $176 million in 2020 in the form of taxes and production rights, according to the company's own financial statements.
In other news, with 99,353 people receiving COVID-19 jabs on Wednesday, the total number of fully vaccinated Indonesians reached 10,224,833, according to data provided by the Health Ministry. Meanwhile, as many as 205,692 people received their first vaccine dose on Wednesday, bringing the total number of people who have received their first shot to 15,535,998. And the government is targeting to vaccinate 40,349,049 people, including healthcare workers, public service sector workers, and elderly citizens during the first and second phases of the national immunization program. And Indonesia has officially reported more than 1.7 million cases of coronavirus and nearly 50,000 deaths.
Meanwhile, Antara News reported that Indonesia's top security minister, Mahfud MD, highlighted the government's priority to seek peaceful solutions to the Papuan issue, though it will continue to crack down on armed Papuan terrorist groups that have threatened most communities there. Take a look. Law enforcement operations are continuing against armed terrorists to stop their acts of violence against 92% of the Papuan communities that are the unitary state of the Republic of Indonesia's loyalists, that according to Mr. Mahfud MD. Outcome of the recent survey jointly conducted by the State Intelligence Agency, or BIN, along with universities and several other credible institutions, revealed that 82% of the respondents openly supported Indonesia's special autonomy draft bill. Indonesia's security forces have been intensifying a military crackdown in the Papua Highlands following the killing of the province's intelligence chief by rebel groups in late April. His death angered Jakarta, who moved to officially designate Papuan separatist terrorists. A former Dutch colony, Papua declared itself independent in 1961, but neighboring Jakarta took control 2 years later, promising an independence referendum. The subsequent vote in favor of staying part of Indonesia was widely considered a sham.
Now in other news, Sri Lankan authorities battled on Wednesday to put out a fire raging for a week on a striking container ship loaded with chemicals to avoid a potential marine environmental disaster. The Singapore-registered vessel within sight of the shore is carrying 25 tons of nitric acid as well as other unspecified chemicals and cosmetics. This is according to the Navy. 8 of its nearly 1,500 containers fell overboard on Tuesday, and one of which washed ashore at the Negombo tourist beach, 40 kilometers or 25 miles north of Colombo. Strong winds associated with a cyclone hitting eastern India hampered efforts to put out the blaze as a huge cloud of black smoke rose from the MV Express Pearl. Sri Lanka's Air Force used helicopters to drop about 425 kilograms or 935 pounds of fire retardant chemicals on the ship Wednesday. Darshani Lahandapura from the Marine Environment Protection Authority said containment measures were being prepared in case chemicals or fuel oil are spilled from the ship's engine and fuel tanks. And the container ship was on its way to Colombo from Gujarat in India when the fire broke out on deck on May 20 around 14 kilometers or 7.5 nautical miles offshore.
Many Malaysians who failed to get an appointment to the AstraZeneca vaccine while trying to register for it yesterday woke up today to good news. Let's hear more from Alfred Balmes. Alfred?
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The latest round of AstraZeneca vaccine registration yesterday was quite a challenge for many applicants, leaving thousands of people unhappy. This was due to, yet again, technical glitches that resulted in users having problems accessing several features in the website. Social media was flooded with memes and complaints of people as they shared their not so good experience while attempting to book an appointment for the vaccine. However, a large number of Malaysia who failed to get appointment from the AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday woke up to good news today when their My Sejahtera application was updated with an appointment for inoculation. It was a pleasant surprise for many who have initially thought their registration was not successful. COVID-19 Immunization Task Force said the second phase for the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, which was open to those over 18 years old living in Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Penang, Johor, and Sarawak, was filled up in just an hour, recording a total of 956,609 slots being taken up. Meanwhile, in a statement yesterday, CITF said this mechanical problem will be taken seriously and necessary action will be imposed on the relevant parties in the interest of the public and the country. CITF assured Malaysian they would still be able to get their vaccine under the National COVID-19 Immunization Program, especially when the vaccine process ramps up in the coming months. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Alfred, for your updates there in Malaysia. Hopefully, everybody gets registered for the vaccination. Have you had your vaccination yet?
Yes, I get the first dose already.
Congratulations. Thank you, Alfred.
Thank you so much. Live reporting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is Alfred Palmes. We live in interesting times.
Humanda na kayo dahil this is gonna be an exciting battle para sa ating monthly finalists. This is Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Singing Edition.
This program is supported by China Bank. Your success is our business.
Kumanta, sumaya tayong lahat. Saya-saya.
Welcome back to the program. A health official reported yesterday that more than 1 million of the 1.5 million doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine that will expire on June 30 have already been administered as first dose. Let's take a look.
Ang natanggap natin ay 2 million doses ng AstraZeneca. To date, we have already given 1 million doses administered, no, out of the 2 million. And kailangan na lang natin 500 million, about 500,000 for the first dose. Kasi yung another 500,000 doses are allocated as second dose for those who have been given the first dose in March. At ang ginamit kasi nila ay yung 12-week interval. So karamihan po ng mga nabakunahan yung galing sa 525,000 nung first batch ay ngayon pa lang magto 12 weeks at saka yung sa first week and second week of June. So kung may 1 million na tayong na ibakuna ngayon tapos another 500,000 for our second dose, mga 400 almost 497,000 na lang ang kailangan nating maiturok as first dose by end of June. So we are confident by end of June na i-job na itong ating remaining 500 as first doses habang kinokompleto natin yung pang second dose ng first batch.
The country has so far received 2,556,000 doses of donated AstraZeneca through the World Health Organization-led COVAX facility. On Monday, WHO Country Representative Rabindra Abeyasinghe said the Philippines is set to receive additional 2 million doses of AstraZeneca in June. Now, in other news, National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. announced the Philippines' world ranking in total COVID doses administered. And let's listen it.
Dahil po na mataas po ang rollout po natin last week, tumaas din po yung ating ranking sa global ranking. Tayo na po ay 36 out of 96 countries, 196 countries na last week ay 41st po tayo. So tayo po umangat ng 5 notches. And then sa buong Asia, from 16, naging 13 na po tayo. At sa ASEAN, nakahabol po yung ibang mga ASEAN members. 4th po tayo ng May 18. Ngayon po, nag-second na po tayo. At tuloy-tuloy po ang ating pag-ayuda sa pag-taas ng ating vaccination rollout kasi medyo maayos na po ang ating mga vaccination centers. At saka ang LGU po, through the leadership of our Secretary Anyo, ay talagang ganadong-ganado po na magkaroon po talaga ng herd immunity soon as possible time ang kanilang mga lugar.
The National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, turned over 2 Japanese nationals, one of them listed by Interpol as transnational fugitive, to the Bureau of Immigration after their arrest in Parañaque City last month. NBI Officer in Charge Director Eric B. Distor said Watanabe Yuki and Tomonobu Saito have been turned over pursuant to a commitment order issued by the Bureau of Immigration after the San Lazaro Hospital cleared the 2 fugitives from COVID-19. Yuki, aka Kenji Shimada was tagged under a blue notice of Interpol as having been a known personality behind various crimes, including online fraud, extortion in Japan and other countries, according to the NBI. The immigration officials identified Yuki as an undesirable alien in the country, as a fugitive, and for having illegally entered the country, while Tomonobu has an outstanding summary deportation order. Another Japanese national, Kosuke who was arrested with the 2 in a Parañaque City hotel, was recommended for release after no derogatory or criminal record was found on him. The 3 Japanese nationals were apprehended on April 19 and failed to present any document, and they've been turned over to the NBI Security Management Section for temporary custody so that they can be properly isolated and quarantined after Yuki tested positive for COVID-19.
There were 47 more COVID-19 fatalities reported over the past 24 hours, a new daily record, and 3,323 new infections, the Public Health Ministry reported on Thursday morning. There were 2,104 new cases among the general public and 1,219 in prisons. On Wednesday, 2,063 patients were diagnosed and recovered and were discharged from hospitals. In the third wave of COVID-19 since April 1, there have been 112,354 cases reported in total, while 66,402 patients have recovered. The death toll for the period rose to 826. Until last month, the kingdom had kept coronavirus infections low through draconian restrictions on people entering the country and swift action to isolate confirmed cases. But now it is struggling to contain a third wave that began in a Bangkok nightlife district and has seen total infections soar from around 30,000 in late March to over 111,000 on Monday. The high infection rates in prisons came to light last week when an activist at the forefront of Thailand's democracy movement, announced she has tested positive 5 days after being released from a Bangkok jail on bail.
A trainer aircraft piloted by a student pilot crash-landed at Barangay Urayong Bayan in Bawang, La Union on Wednesday, that according to the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP. The Tecnam P-2010 aircraft with registry number RPC-8230 was piloted by a 25-year-old student from First Aviation Academy, or FAA, in Subic Bay International Airport. The student pilot was conducting a solo cross-country flight, according to CAAP. The flight originated from Iba Airport in the province of Zambales, en route to La Union Airport and Lingayen Airport, and then back to Iba Airport. CAAP spokesperson Eric Apolonio told the Philippine News Agency they're waiting for further details from the investigation team. He, however, confirmed that the student pilot's body was already recovered. Investigators would also try to put together the aircraft debris to find out what happened. He also said there's no black box since it's just a small aircraft, so radio communication would be looked at and investigators would also collect the debris.
In the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, or PNP, Chief General Guillermo Eleazar on Wednesday invoked his subpoena power in running after those behind the alleged sale of coronavirus disease COVID-19 vaccines and vaccination slots. Let's take a look.
In order to further ferret out the truth on this controversy, I am invoking my power given to me by the law as the Chief PNP to issue subpoena against the persons involved in the alleged sale of COVID vaccines and vaccine slots. At least isang tao na ang kilala ng PNP na sangkot dito, kaya ang tamang gawin niya ay pumunta sa aking opisina o sa anumang police station upang magbigay ng linaw sa isyung ito. Huwag ka nang makipaglaro ng taguan sa ating mga kapulisan. Hindi katanggap-tanggap ang ganitong uri ng gawain.
Norman Rabaya, who was allegedly offered a vaccination slot by the suspect for a fee, has already submitted his sworn statement to the Mandaluyong police regarding the incident. Rabaya said he became suspicious after learning that the vaccination slot offered to him is in Mandaluyong when he is a resident of Las Piñas. Under Republic Act 10973, the PNP Chief, Deputy Director for Administration, and CIDG Chief have the authority to issue subpoenas in relation to the police's conduct of investigations, particularly on high-profile crimes. Staying here in the country, the Octa Research Group recommended an extension of the general community quarantine in the National Capital Region and its neighboring province for 2 more weeks. In an online media forum, Octa Research Group fellow Professor Guido David said the numbers are still high despite a decline in the average of new COVID cases per day was seen in NCR, Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal. He, however, suggested the relaxation of some heightened restrictions to allow more businesses to operate at a higher capacity. In its latest monitoring report, the group showed that NCR's average of new COVID cases per day is 1,099 over the past week. It noted that the figure is 80% lower compared to its peak in April when the infection surged. New quarantine classifications for June are expected to be announced this week. The Philippines, which has one of the largest outbreaks in Southeast Asia, has tallied 1.19 million cases, including more than 20,000 deaths.
broadcast journalist Wayne De La Fuente returns on Philippine television and radio to deliver top stories and engage with the country's policymakers, shapers, and movers. Tatalakayin ang mga pangunahing balita alas 7 ng umaga mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Wayne De La Fuente sa Balitalakayan.
Ang iskinit ang kaisikin, lumuyan sa ating himig, at sa kalsadang kadilim, nagdilaw ang pag-ibig sa dating
Hi, kami po ang Fly 109. I'm Dem.
My name is Sean.
Ayun ako si Jeric. Abangan niyo po kami ngayong linggo
Sa Letters and Music,
from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m.
dito lamang sa Net25. See ya!
Welcome back to the program. Singapore's national airline reported on Wednesday its worst annual net loss of $3.2 billion in the aftermath of the toughest year in its history due to the coronavirus pandemic. The airline industry has been hammered hard by recurring waves of infections worldwide, which have grounded air travel as governments restrict movement to halt the surges. Singapore Airlines said late Wednesday that it suffered a net loss of $4.3 US dollars or 3.2 billion for the financial year ended March 31, widening the previous year's 112 million net loss. Revenue plunged over 76% to 3.8 billion from nearly 16 billion. The carrier said in a filing with the Singapore Exchange, describing the past 12 months as the toughest year in its history. The company said waves of infections and the emergence of more virulent strains of the virus caused passenger traffic to tumble almost 98%. SIA said despite the resurgence of infections, growing vaccine numbers in key markets provides hope for further recovery in the second half of this year. The carrier has already raised a total 15.4 billion in fresh capital and is seeking to raise a further 6.2 billion to strengthen its financial position with the backing of its majority shareholder, Singapore State Investment Fund, Temasek.
In other news, Thailand's economy shrank in the first quarter, according to official data, as it was battered by coronavirus restrictions that have hit the key tourism sector hard. The kingdom last year suffered its worst full-year performance since the Asian financial crisis of 1997, with a 6.1% contraction. The Office of the National Economic and Social Development Council, or NESDC, said GDP shrank 2.6% on year in the first 3 months. The NASDC also gave a cool forecast for the recovery, cutting its 2021 growth outlook to 1.5 to 2.5% from its previous estimate of 2.5 to 3.5%. The tight travel restrictions already reducing the usual flow of foreign visitors to a trickle. Thailand has been hit by a third coronavirus wave, triggering fresh curbs on economic activity.
High domestic liquidity situation continues to drive demand for the Bangko Sentral of Filipinas, or BSP, Term Deposit Facility, or TDF, but rates against posted mixed results on Wednesday. Data released by the central bank showed that the average rate of the 7-day facility slipped further to 1.7202%, but the rate of the 14-day TDF increased to 1.7714%. The results of the TDF auction show sustained market participants' interest in the BSP's deposit facilities, particularly on the shorter tenure BSP Deputy Governor Francisco Daquila Jr. said in a statement. He said liquidity conditions remain normal amid ample financial system liquidity.
Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said the Department of Tourism has proposed a shorter quarantine period for vaccinated tourists coming to the Philippines as part of its Green Lane strategy. Take a look. She said that they are looking at shortening the quarantine from 10 days to 7 days, especially for those who are vaccinated. In a report from the Business Mirror, she mentioned that the DOT is constantly looking at its neighbors in Southeast Asia for guidance on best practices. She gave the example of Thailand, wherein for fully vaccinated tourists, they still have to quarantine, though, for 7 days. In Hong Kong, the quarantine is also for 7 days, but the tourists come from low-risk countries like New Zealand, Australia, and Singapore. In a new statement, the DOT chief said she was optimistic about the prospect of setting up the green lane that will facilitate the entry of foreign visitors who are fully vaccinated against the coronavirus as part of the national government's effort to reopen the economy.
The captain of the FB Pauline II and its crew thanked Philippine Navy personnel for immediately rescuing them after their boat sustained damage off Nares Bank in the West Philippine Sea. Placido Azucena said in a video message on Wednesday, quote, "While we were fishing in West Philippine Sea, our boat sustained a hole which sank eventually. Before that, we were able to make a call to nearby boats, then we were immediately rescued by the Philippine Navy. We are thankful for the rescuers for saving our lives." Meanwhile, 46-year-old Arnel Mangampo, owner of the fishing boat, said the sailors' quick response to their distress call saved the lives of his fellow fishermen. He added that the fishermen are now recuperating from the stress of nearly losing their lives while out at sea. On Monday, Naval Forces West Commander Commodore Don Anthony Miraflor said a radio report from another fishing boat, FB Española, was received on Sunday on FB Pauline II, sustaining hull derangement in the area and requires assistance. NFW immediately dispatched the information to all of its naval assets. The offshore patrol vessel BRP Emilio Jacinto PS-35 was the first to arrive at the scene on Monday noon as it was patrolling the area. The ship and its crew immediately helped the distressed fishermen who were all taken abroad and given medical assistance, food, and accommodation. The fishermen arrived in San Jose Occidental, Mindoro on Tuesday noon.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business from vision to action.
Filipino weightlifting star Hidilyn Diaz raised funds through online workout for coronavirus relief efforts in her country after drawing inspiration from live stream concerts. Take a look.
Pag kumakanta sila ng FB Live sa Pilipinas, so maraming nagdo-donate. So I was thinking na baka pwede kong i-share yung talent ko sa weightlifting. 14 days na walang hawak na barbell, parang sa totoo lang parang nasisiraan na ako ng ulo. Kasi syempre, yung barbell, parang 18 years ko na hinahawakan.
Okay, good.
Filipino weightlifter Hidilyn Diaz grants with the effort of hosting a barbell over her head in an outdoor makeshift gym arranged by banana and rambutan trees as trucks underpass, an unlikely training base for a shot at Olympic gold in Tokyo. Diaz, 30 years old, who took silver at Rio 2016, has been stuck in Malaysia since February last year because of the coronavirus pandemic, but has remained determined to realize her dream of becoming the first Olympic gold medal winner from the Philippines. And take a look.
Stay tight, stay tight. Hi, I'm Hidilyn Diaz. I'm 30 years old and I'm competing in 55 kilograms women's category in weightlifting in Tokyo 2020 Olympics. We have no place to stay anymore in KL because of pandemic, and we're here because this is a place that we think like more stable during this time. We have been here in Jasin since October 2020, and it's almost 8 months we're here. I want to train there, but with the guidance of my coach, they don't want me. Because if I will be there, I won't really focus in weightlifting. I won't be focusing in Olympics. I will be more Olympics. I will be more on thinking about my family. What is their welfare? What is this? And I am more like doing community works for the Philippines. For me, being here in Kampung, it's really improved my mental health, especially if you see green, you see trees, you see we're in Kampung, so more normal life. And for me, I'm on track mentally and physically. Postponing the Olympics for another 1 year, it's hard already for us mentally, physically, because like we sacrifice a lot. We our life with the family, our time with our family, our time to, we decided to focus only doing the sports that we still continue as an Olympic athlete. We still continue even though it's hard, because we know this pandemic will not be permanent. It's temporary, and Olympics will push through. Okay. Living in uncertainty is really hard. Like last year, it's like, I don't know what happened, but I think right now, with Asian Championship happened already, and I know I have slots already, and yeah, it's a sacrifice, big sacrifice to represent the country, but I am blessed to represent Philippines in the Olympics.
Now, some cat illustrations have appeared on the lawn of the Malay Heritage Center, part of the Paw Verbs on the Lawn. Heather Pilar Clemente takes us there from our Singapore Bureau. Hello, Heather.
This exhibition. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm at Malay Heritage Center, and I'll show you an exhibition called Proverbs on the Lawn. Let's go. Located at Malay Heritage Center, the Proverbs on the Lawn can be seen upon entering the center. A total of 30 cat standees can be seen scattered around the lawn. This exhibition was a collaboration between the Malay Heritage Center and a Japanese artist named Juno of Mofu Sand. This exhibition pays tribute to the place of a cat in the Malay literature, culture, and the hearts of Singaporeans. The cats in the Malay proverbs are metaphorically used to convey human behavior and to impart age-old lessons handed down from generation to generation. Not only can you see the cat standees, but you may also spot real cats, such as their famous cat named Oreo. The best part of this exhibition is that it's free. All you have to do is register and follow the COVID safety protocols. I'm Heather Pilar Clemente, reporting from EBC Singapore. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Faye, for keeping me company as always.
Thank you also, Alma, and thank you to all who watched the ASEAN in Focus today. Please keep updated and stay tuned for more details about the ASEAN Bureau. This is Faye Barte from Thailand Bureau. We live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.
This program is supported by Security Bank,